Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Paint with Sean. So today we are continuing with our mountain scene. We've got a great sky going on, some clouds. We've put several layers of mountains in here. And today we're going to talk about how to paint a mountain lake. So this lake is going to intended to look pretty far away. And so the height of the lake will determine how close it looks. So again, the smaller the height, the farther away it will look. You can see less of it because it's on the horizon kind of thing. Like some of this, it's very small compared to this one or this one, okay? So we've got a very limited color palette today. Blue, brown, black, white. Probably won't even use any of the brown today, but mostly just blue and white and a little bit of black. We're gonna darken it just a little bit down here towards as it seems to get closer. So it's going to be a little bit lighter color and then it will get a little bit darker, but we really only want the lake to come to about here. It won't be very big, and we're actually going to cut off some of this and kind of straighten this out a little bit. So again, guys, don't worry about if you mess it up or it's not exactly how you thought it was going to be when you put the first strokes on there. As you add layers, you can cover up some of this stuff that you didn't intend for it to look that way. So I've got a dry brush. I want this to be fairly thick paint-wise, just to be able to get good coverage on this. So I'm going to pull the blue over here, and I'm going to get a good dab of white in here. So I want this to have a pretty good blue tone to it. And so we just want this to be a lighter color blue than up here. So I don't want it to be quite the same. And now that I'm sitting here thinking, I might throw a dab of yellow in this. Okay, and I don't want to put it straight in my color. I just want to get just a touch of the yellow and tint this to the greener side. Okay, so we're just gonna swirl that yellow in there. Maybe get just a little bit more. Okay. All right. So our color's pretty light here, right? And again, we're going up against this, so it'll definitely have a good differentiation of color. And also, the farther things away are, the flatter the bottoms of them will look. So more like a horizon. You're going to see less contour of the land. So I'm going to keep this fairly straight as I'm going here. So I'm really just kind of creating where that lay of the land is. All right. Where does the water come to? And I'm just using the old fan brush. Okay. I'm really making it just kind of flat on the top. So I'm going to get my color all the way across going on over here. Okay. And nothing really super special about this technique. I'm just really making a solid line across here. And again, if it's not perfectly even, that's okay. We're also going to add another layer of trees over this in the next episode anyway. So we just want a good line of coverage coming up across that. Okay, so now I'm going to take this color and we're just going to kind of add in a little bit more of it. Okay, and again, I don't want to come too far down because I really don't want this to look too close. Okay, so I'm just adding some pieces. And really, for the most part, over here is going to be covered up. Okay, so we'll come down right in through here and just sort of create a little flat area for us. Okay, so I like the color, but it's really flat. All right, so what I mean by flat is it's all kind of one solid color all the way across. And I also think it dips down a little bit too much over here. So number one, I'm going to raise this edge line up over here. And again, I know I said this is going to be covered up, but anything that might show through, I still want to be there. Okay, so we're just going to bring this across and give ourselves a nice solid line of color on the horizon. Okay. Okay, good. All right, so now again, I want to darken this just a tad. So I'm just going to touch into the black and come back into this same color I'm working with. I do want it to be a little more blue because I put quite a bit of yellow in there. So we'll see if I've got enough blue on my canvas to work with that. And I don't think I do, so I'm going to add just a little more blue directly in the pool I'm mixing here because that's kind of all we're working with today. And the black always turns it more of a grayish color. So it kind of takes a lot of blue and a very little bit of black to make this, oh yeah, there we go, to make this remain as a blue color. Okay. So we've got a definitely a darker blue color. So I just want to come across the bottom and just give this a little bit of color to it. Okay. And it doesn't have to be perfectly even. All right. And then I'm just going to take my other dry brush that I've got over here and just sort of blend this a little bit. Okay. And it will pick up the color as we're going, so sort of adjusting this as I go. I'm just going to blend this and have it become a little bit of a darker color towards the bottom, so that indicates that it's sort of getting closer to you. And if you get too much paint, just go ahead and wipe it off. You can do a little more blending. It works way better with a dry brush with nothing on it. Okay, so just real light touches here. We're just kind of evening out where those things come together. Okay, and I'm only using horizontal strokes because if you ever look at water, it always sort of seems horizontal. And this doesn't, again, have to be a perfect blend. If there's a little bit of hardline contour in some of it, that's okay. Because sometimes there's ripples in the water and things move a little more than you realize. So, again, this is just a little world that you get to create with yourself. Okay, so you make the rules of what's going on and what you want it to look like. Okay, so I'm just sort of blending across this and wiping the excess paint off my brush here. There we go. Just sort of mix this all together. Okay. Alright, I'm getting this good and blended. Right, like I'm looking for. It's looking good. Okay. It's like one side has dark and the other side has light. Alright, so again, we don't want this to be a perfectly even flat color. That little bit of dimension in some of this stuff is great. Okay, so we've got a little bit of things going on here. So I'm going to throw that in the water. I like how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my fan brush as well. And then we've got our trusty knife. Okay. So again, this isn't perfectly flat, but for the most part. So we're going to put a little water line going across this. And all we got to do is pull out some of this white. So we've got just a little bit on the edge of our palette knife here. And we just want to come across and go sideways. Okay, so we just want to create a nice thin line indication of some shore. Okay, and again, it doesn't have to be exactly one little tiny thin line. Okay, it can break up a little bit, but we just want to give that indication that there's a shoreline going on here. Okay, so I'm going to get some on there and just kind of spread it out, and it only comes off the very edge of this, so you may need to reload several times. Oh, I got a little extra going on there, so we can just play that off as a little bit of extra splash. Okay, so I just want to give this little indication of the shore. And the thinner you can make this line, the farther the shore will look farther away. Okay. A lot of this is going to be covered up in the end. So. Okay, so we've got ourselves a little shoreline going on. I just want to lighten this up a little bit. Kind of thick. And again, I don't know how much of that's even going to show in the end. Okay, so we've got ourselves a little bit of a shoreline. It doesn't have to be every exact piece. Okay, you can leave little bits if you want. Okay, and I even like that there's that little bit of splash. Right, like there's some things going on in the water. It's coming up onto the shoreline. Okay, so we've got our lake, we've got our shoreline. Now we're going to add a little bit of detail again, same kind of motion. We're getting just a tiny bit of this white, and I want to come over to the blue and sort of mix it in a little bit so that it's not an exact white. Okay, I just want it to be that lighter color, and then we can sort of just come along in here and add some indications. Okay, so again, we don't want too much. We just want to add little bits that kind of give it some flavor, like the water's moving a little bit. Okay, and you may have some paint on your brush from earlier that really just created some lumps and some bumps and things. So okay, so I'm just putting in some real light touches, so it's not a flat water surface. Okay, so we're just creating some little indications of things going on. We need a little more white. So we're really just working on the lake part today, and then we are going to have some more stuff that we'll work on with some of the other pieces. So, and again, the smaller these little detail lines are, the farther away this lake will look. Okay, and little hints are really what we're looking for. Just little bits. It doesn't take too much. The eye is really good at making up the rest. So we're just indicating here. I don't even know how much of that again is going to be showing on this end, but ooh, that was a lot more than I wanted. So we can throw back over that with some blue. Okay, and you can even scrape some of that off if you want. We'll come back in with some of our darker color and just sort of even it out. Look at that. Okay. So we've got things going on. We don't really have a lot of story about where this is. That's always one of the questions I get is where is that place? Where did you see that before? And I don't really have a story about where it came from. I just putting some techniques out here that look like they possibly could exist in the world. Okay, so I'm just throwing in a little bits here and there and putting some on and taking some off, and it can be your little world. You can do as much or as little as you want, guys. Okay, but everything is lateral within the water. That's a very, very important piece. So I'm just going to cut some of that up and thin that little shoreline there. Okay. So I didn't want it to be quite so heavy. Okay. So we've got a nice little lake going on. We've got some area now that we can work with as we come down. And in our next episode, we're going to add a few trees into the shoreline to kind of break it up just a little bit so it's not quite so plain of just water up against rocks. And then we are going to carry those trees sort of down in this direction here. So come along for the ride with us, guys. I appreciate your time up to this point so far. We're going to continue to show you little tiny tips and tricks about how to add these little pieces in and how to adjust them and do things to your heart's content in the world of landscape painting. So appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next episode.